The Oracle Network. The Oracle Network. Look deeper.
This is Dos Pequeños,
a funnier look at the paranormal in New Mexico.
with your co-ghosts, Eric Carter Landine.
And Alex.
What's up, Alex?
Hey, Eric. How you doing?
It's been a long-ass week, man.
It has been a long-ass couple of weeks. I agree.
Yeah. I'm doing good, though. Other than
Good.
that, I'm tired.
Good. This is going to be a good episode. But before that, I know we have a few announcements.
Yeah. Okay, so I would say follow us on social media at Dos Pequeños on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you want to support our show, help me, I'm poor. Go to patreon.com/Dos Pequeños. We are listener supported, and it helps us pay for things like equipment and website and all that other stuff that we have to spend money on.
And it gives you access to, episodes before everybody else, so you could feel, special and awesome about that.
Yeah.
And also exclusive content. Like, we've got some stuff coming out there pretty soon. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, and if you stick around to the end of the episode, you might hear a little bit about some content we're going to be working on for Patreon. And there's even going to be, when I can get my shit together, outtakes, which I have them. I just have to put them together and make a little episode out of that. That'll be on Patreon as well. And the higher tiers get merch, which is pretty cool as well. Oh, and I just ordered a bunch of stickers too, which is awesome.
My merch is coming in the mail, I'm hoping, by tomorrow.
I am wearing our shirt right now, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I ordered a bunch of stuff, so I'm excited.
I need to order more stuff. But I did get us some stickers, so we'll be able to start sending out those member benefits for patrons. And if you want a sticker, that's really the only way you can get it unless you go onto our merch page, which is at tpublic.com/Dos Pequeños. You can buy that there as well. There's shirts, there's laptop covers, there's phone cases.
Just keychains,
all
socks.
kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Socks, pot holders.
People are going to be really pissed when they go and there's no pot holders.
There's no pot holders. What is that asshole sent me to
He's
the wrong
such a fucking liar. Cool. All right. I think that's all we have for announcements. Other than don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review.
Share it.
Share us. Tell your friends about us. Get the word out there. Don't keep this horrible train wreck to yourself.
No, you got to share it with others.
You got to let other people know.
The misery loves company.
Yeah.
That's why we're friends.
Exactly. That is completely accurate.
Yeah, well, What do we got today?
Oh my God, I am so fucking excited to get into this today, man. Like, I can't believe that this is happening right now. I want to jump up and down. I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm so fucking excited. Okay, so we are going to go deep dive into this hairy ass case. Get it?
Get it?
Get it? See what I did there? We're bringing you some quality content today.
Get ready for puns.
We're bringing you some quality content with this one. Now, you may be wondering why we are covering such a famous case when it doesn't seem likely that there have been any sightings of this creature in New Mexico. And you're completely wrong.
Wrong.
In your face, listener that thinks that. There actually have been some sightings.
No, I was going to say, I remember when I brought it up to you, and I was like, and you were like, what? Shut up. And I'm like, no, I'm serious. Like, legit, they're supposed to be here in New Mexico.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to find out. Of course, we're discussing the legendary Bigfoot, a.k.a. Sasquatch, a.k.a. Sam Squanch, a.k.a. Alex.
Oh.
I mean, you're a big hairy guy.
Yeah, I get it. Put my head down.
I was really surprised, like you said, Alex, when you brought up the idea of Bigfoot as an episode, because I wasn't aware that this was a thing here in New Mexico. But it turns out that there have been dozens, if not hundreds, of alleged sightings, which was shocking for me. I wasn't expecting that. It seems like you were aware that this was happening.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
I've heard a couple of stories about it. You know, I spend a lot of time in the New Mexico wilderness, and so you always hear little stories every once in a while about things like this.
And you grew up in the Four Corners area, or you lived in the Four Corners area, right?
I did.
So that's probably where a lot of those sightings happened anyway.
Yeah, in that area. Yeah.
It's interesting to me because I've always considered Sasquatch to be limited to like Oregon, Washington, maybe British Columbia. And then I started to research this. And actually, I watched this documentary yesterday about Bigfoot, and they shared a map of where they thought Bigfoot has been seen in North America. And it's a huge area. It's actually larger than the entire country of the United States, which is a significant amount of square miles to cover. So I'm linking a similar map in the show notes. And also there's a link here for you, Alex, that you can click on. So you
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
And you can see like it covers a good 2/3 of the US. Yeah. It goes up into Canada.
It's interesting how some states have 0 sightings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really? Wow.
It's probably like Kansas, right?
Yeah, they don't go to Kansas. Exactly. Yeah. Kansas and South Dakota are in the clear.
Too flat
there.
there.
North Dakota too.
It's a giant area. And there's also alien sightings in that map too, which is kind of cool.
They have both.
Anyway, you guys can find it in the show notes. They will be there for you to click on and look at. So what is Bigfoot? They are mythical creatures and legendary beings that humanity has been chasing for hundreds of years. Reports of Bigfoot have gone back to ancient indigenous times in North America. Many native tribes have legends and tales of creatures similar to Bigfoot. According to sightings and opinions of paranormal investigators, Bigfoot is a bipedal hominid creature. The beast is said to stand at a towering 6 to 9 feet in height. He is covered in hair from head to toe and resembles primates, specifically in relation to his face and his limbs. So you've got like the kind of gorilla-looking face with extra long arms and just looks like a primate. The hair or fur has been described as matted and varying in color depending on who you talk to, from brown to black. He's said to have a face similar to a gorilla, like I said, with a wide forehead and nose. One of the more baffling things about this particular cryptid is the fact that the remains of this animal have never been discovered. The only, quote, evidence that has ever been found, aside from grainy videos and photos, are the occasional footprint. And these footprints vary in size, and they also vary in the number of toes they have.
What do you mean? They have like 10 toes and 20 toes?
Some have 4. Some have 5. Some have 6. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
So that's inconsistent.
Can you imagine what this thing smells like?
Like roses?
Like swamp ass. Like the worst kind of swamp ass.
He probably smells like wet dog.
I don't know. Hopefully one day we'll find out. That Dory time. Here is a sighting from the website at bfro.net. My wife and I were driving home from Denver, Colorado to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and stopped at a gas station in Las Vegas, New Mexico. I believe it was a Phillips 66. At approximately 0100 hours on 10/18/2013, we pulled off I-25 southbound into the gas station parking lot. When we were driving down the frontage road towards the gas station, we saw a few vehicles on the far end of the parking lot with 3 to 4 people talking, and a New Mexico State police cruiser was leaving the lot. However, upon parking in the front of the gas station, we discovered that it was closed. I needed to pee rather urgently, so I ran around to the back of the station to find a dark place to do my business. And I walked about 15 to 20 meters behind the gas station to be out of sight of the occupied vehicles in the gas station lot. And as I was urinating, I began to feel uncomfortable. I guess it was because I was peeing in open ground and initially thought somebody was walking up behind me, probably to do the same thing. I craned and looked around and saw nobody and no animals, just a blanket, feeling that somebody was very near me. As I finished peeing, I turned and began briskly walking back to our vehicle. As I was hurrying back, I turned to look behind me, and that is when I became a believer. Before I continue, I'd like to preface my anecdote by alluding to all my high levels of academic credentialing alongside my occupation as a healthcare executive. I also provide executive and technical advice to elected and appointed officials. I have worked very hard to become an expert based on empirical analysis and studied facts. I did not believe in Bigfoot, ghosts, or other unexplained anomalies. I believed in results, hard work, and, well, results. My perspective is now very different. As I turned and looked over my left shoulder, I saw an enormous lurking animal. The animal was crouched over, almost as if taking cover in sparse and cold vegetation. In fact, I think the creature watched me the whole time and did not make so much of a noise. However, the creature noticed when I saw it, and the creature stood up and quickly lumbered into the dark, away from the direction of the parking lot.
Wait, hold on. So Bigfoot is like totally meat gazing this dude while he's pissing?
He's a lurker. He's a straight lurker. He hides behind
he's like
gas stations waiting for people to go take a piss, and they just won't lurk.
He's breathing heavy.
Yeah. The one attribute of the creature that resounded with me was how heavy the footfall was. It sounded like somebody dropping a sack of potatoes over and over again. It was fast, and I observed the creature for about 8 to 11 seconds from the moment I realized I saw it, to watching the animal dart into the woodline. Due to radiant light from the parking lot, I could make out the steady detail of the fleeing creature. Here are the salient points from my memory, aside from the footfall. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
1. The creature was approximately 8 to 10 feet tall. I'm 6'2", and this animal would have been towered over me. I observed it on flat land, lending to my estimation. 2. The hair of the creature was matted, like dogs that live outside, and the coloration was dark brown. 3. The creature had a defined gait. It took strides that I would estimate to be about 3 to 4 of my strides per one of its strides. Wow. 4. The creature had massive, human-like hands. 5. The creature was very skittish, not moving until I realizing I was observing it, and lending to a higher intellect than a brown bear. I believe the creature may have even fled in fear. 6. I did not make eye contact, but noticed a massive brown and defined jaw and cranial structure. There is one other trait that I have since read about that may allude to this being a New Mexico Bigfoot. The air was rank with what I thought was a dumpster behind the gas station. However, this may be the musk every eyewitnesses have reported in the past. I cannot be sure, but it was very powerful and somewhat reminiscent of what I perceived to be urine. The incident was fearful and moving, and I was unable to sleep for days and could not even bring myself to tell my wife until recently. Due to my profession and reputation, I have extreme reluctance about opening and sharing my encounter. However, I have personal visual evidence of so-called mythical beast, and that I do not know what to do with it. I want to see it.
Wow.
I wonder what he's talking about, the evidence that I have.
Well, he said personal visual, so he saw with his eyes, I think is what he's
okay. I was like, no, I want to know. Show me.
That's a good story and kind of creepy. I mean, it's like 1 a.m. and you're getting gas. That would be really fucking scary.
What are the chances of it being a bear?
Bears don't really have human hands.
Oh, that's true, dude.
Yeah.
What if it's Skinwalker?
Oh, could be a Skinwalker. Could be. Well, that was a good story. Again, that would freak the fuck out of me. I would not be able to handle that. I think I would probably run away and cry.
I think it'd be kind of fun, man. I think of the adrenaline rush from it. Like this sheer, like, oh my God, I just saw, Bigfoot. That I would love to experience something like that. I think that would be awesome.
I have questions. I mean, he goes out of his way to talk about how he's a skeptic. Which is fine. But like, it's 2013. It's not like it was 1987. You probably have your cell phone in your pocket. Like, why didn't you whip that shit out and take a video? I don't understand.
His hands were busy.
Well, he was done peeing after he saw it, you know?
Well, you know, it's hard to say like how people would react when something like that happens. Like, you know, they may not be your instinct just to reach into your pocket and start filming. It may just be like to witness it.
Yeah.
Bigfoot is one of the stories that I really do kind of have a hope for that is real, that there is like some actual possibility of something like that to be real.
Well, let's learn some more about him. And I think that it might help, at least for me, it helped me understand that it is possible. So let's get into that. This creature is said to dwell in the mountainous forests of North America. There have been sightings all over the North American continent, with the bulk of the sightings occurring in the Pacific Northwest of the United States and Canada. There are other similar creatures that have been sighted in other parts of the world, such as the Yeti in Nepal, the Yeren in China, and the Yowie in Australia. These are all considered to be close cousins of Sasquatch or Bigfoot, according to believers. The skeptics will point out the fact that there have been no specimen or remains of this creature found ever in history, and that this absence of evidence means that Bigfoot does not exist. Believers argue, however, the absence of evidence doesn't mean that Bigfoot doesn't exist. It just means that we haven't found the evidence yet. They will refer to creatures thought to be mythical that were later proven as real. Some examples include giant squids, narwhals, the okapi, the coelacanth, and even Komodo dragons and gorillas at one time were considered to be made-up creatures.
Huh. I wonder what the okapi is.
The okapi is, it looks like a zebra mixed with a deer.
Okay, yeah, I know what they were in there on the legs, the bottom part of the legs, they're striped, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The coelacanth is like an ancient fish from like dinosaur times.
Is that the one that has like the little feet on the bottom of it? It has like feet almost?
Yeah.
And they have it at the Smithsonian. I think.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a rock almost too.
Yeah.
So these are all creatures that people once thought were made up and eventually were proven by science to be real.
Surprise. So I mean that all makes sense and all, but I mean I just don't know. I kind of agree with the skeptics. Like, why haven't we found any bones or something? Right? You think that we would have found something by now?
Again, a lot of those creatures that people thought were not real were later proven, and who knows how long that they were suspected to exist before they were actually proven to exist.
Well, my thing is just like, you know, the way that America's growing right now, I'm surprised that no one's come up with anything yet.
Yeah, but if you look at like a state like New Mexico or Montana, you know, New Mexico is the 5th largest state, and there's only 2 million people that live here, and 1 million of them live in Albuquerque. So there's a lot of open space where there's nothing and nobody.
Right, that's true.
Yeah. So I think America, there's a lot of America that's like that still.
Well, tell me some about the history of this.
Okay.
Segue.
Many Bigfoot truthers believe that Sasquatch is a distant relative of an ancient primate known as Gigantopithecus. This ancient primate roamed what will later be known as China during the Middle Pleistocene era. This was the age of mastodons, tigers, lions, and even giant sloths. It was also the age of the early human ancestors. It's believed that Gigantopithecus could grow to be about 10 feet tall and weigh almost 600 pounds. So it makes sense why squatchers, is that a thing?
Squatchers?
Like believers of
Sasquatch. That's what they call themselves, right? Squatchers. That's awesome.
It makes sense that they believe Sasquatch is a cousin of Gigantopithecus. Like if he exists, that would make sense.
That would be the most logical, yeah.
So, you know, I think that's the thing is there have been giant primates before.
Right.
It's not that far off to think that there could still be some.
Yeah, that's true.
Think about sharks. Think about crocodiles. Those things have been here for
they all survive.
Years.
Turtles, you know, fish, you know, certain mammals.
Exactly.
They all survived, you know, even longer than the dinosaurs did. So, you know, you never know, I guess.
You never know.
I think it'd be really cool to interview like some squatchers, from New Mexico. Maybe they have some proof, some sounds, or evidence of some
Something.
sort they can share with us.
That would be sweet.
That would be sweet. If you know somebody, let us know.
In 1958, Andrew Genzoli, journalist from the Humboldt Times, published an article about loggers in the Pacific Northwest discovering large, unknown footprints. The article discusses the account of logger named Jerry Crew, who discovered large footprints in the woods about 300 miles north of San Francisco. In his excitement, he began to discuss his findings with his colleagues, who also claimed that they had found similar footprints. Here's a quote from the famous article. Giant footprints puzzle residents along Trinity River. Humboldt Times columnist Andrew Genzoli says, we had reporters from all the wire services pounding on our doors. This article is the first published naming of Sasquatch as Bigfoot, and it was later claimed by a coworker of Crew on his deathbed that Crew made up the entire thing and faked the footprint.
Mwah, mwah.
But so that was one of the first public media frenzy things about Bigfoot was in 1958. Even though, and I think you're going to go into this, the sightings of creatures like Bigfoot have been happening for centuries.
So let's talk about a little bit of the tribal lore.
Okay.
Okay, so accounts of giant ape-like creatures have been documented by humans for centuries. That means more than 100 years. These
multiple hundreds of years.
These sightings are recorded with some of the oldest indigenous cultures and tribes. Most cultures in the world have some type of lore associated with a large ape-like mammal. The Choctaw have named it Champi, and the Navajo call him Biki Nitsa. I think I'm saying
it looks right. Like Becky to me.
Becky Nitsa.
Oh my God, Becky.
The Chinook dubbed him Skookum, and the Salish called him Sasquatch. And many of these words translate into wild man or hairy man.
Or Alex.
Or just me. The Grizz. These tribes, as well as countless others, pass these tales of the creature down from generation to generation in oral storytelling traditions. Many tribes see Bigfoot as a meek, timid, and kind animal with no evil intention or malice. There are accounts of these creatures causing mischief for some tribes in the Pacific Northwest by stealing food and supplies. Quote, in the mountains live many giants who look almost the same as humans, unquote. Quinault tribal member Bob Pope told anthropologist Ronald Olson in 1925, quote, there are great thieves, and some still come around the village at night and borrow a harpoon or a drift net, but usually return them in the morning.
They're just like your neighbor stealing your tools.
Hey man, I just borrowed the lawnmower real quick,
I'll be back tomorrow.
I put gas in it. So the name, go ahead.
Okay, hold on. I have a t-shirt. Your friendly neighborhood Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And we'll have him mowing a lawn.
Or borrowing a cup of sugar.
That's a good shirt.
The name Bigfoot comes from a Wyandot chief who was said to be well over 6 foot tall with giant feet and incredible strength. Another chief from Lakota tribe named Spotted Elk was also referred to as Bigfoot. So both of these chiefs were around in the late 1800s. It also became the name of an especially aggressive grizzly bear that lived in the mountains near Fresno, California.
I thought you said passive aggressive grizzly bear. He's like, could somebody
you go ahead.
pick up the trash that's everywhere? That's another shirt. Passive aggressive grizzly bear.
Passive aggressive Bigfoot. No, it's
someone
okay.
left the toilet seat up again.
It is believed that these 3 Bigfoot named people and bear contributed to the naming of our big, friendly, and mischievous little Sam Squanchels.
Aw, that's cute.
It is cute. And it's Sam Squanchels. I like that.
All right, so let's talk about some sightings and also the top 3 places to find Bigfoot in New Mexico.
Let's go squatch hunting.
Yes. According to newmexi.co, there are 3 areas in New Mexico where you are likely to encounter our big hairy friend. And they are, okay, number 1, Rio Arriba County, which includes Tierra Amarilla and Española, the county extends to the north and borders Colorado. San Juan County, home to Farmington, as well as another bordering area for Colorado. It's actually, for those of you that are not from here, considered the Four Corners, where 4 states meet: Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. I believe it's the only place in the country where 4 states meet like that.
You know, the funny part is that the actual spot that they say is the Four Corners spot is not even that spot.
Right.
So, sorry to burst your bubble, Four Corners people.
The third place is Otero County. It is where Alamogordo is, in the south central part of the state, and the Lincoln National Forest is in Otero County.
That makes sense. It's really green down there. There's a lot of forest down there. Like
Yeah,
down
so,
in that
and
whole Ruidoso area. And
all those areas are very mountainous and forested, right?
Not what you would think of. If you don't know New Mexico, we're pretty wide variety of different landscapes here.
Yeah. There have been thousands of sightings of Bigfoot and his cousins around the world. So there are celebrities who believe in Bigfoot, including Megan Fox, Bobcat Goldthwait, Dean Cain, and some even believe that former President Roosevelt had his own Bigfoot experience.
Oh, Teddy.
Well, actually, it was a second-hand experience, and it happened before he was president. Roosevelt went on a hunting and exploring expedition and was told the tale of an unknown being that fascinated and shook him. Here's a quote from Teddy's book: "The Wilderness Hunter, Hunting Trips of a Ranchman and Ranch Life, and the Hunting Trail, and Hunting and Wilderness and Trips and Ranches and Hunting and Hunting and Hunting."
Let's make sure to have the longest title of a book ever.
I'm not done yet. Trail, Wilderness, Wilderness Hunter, Trips.
Ranch Trail, Ranch Hunting with the Hunting Ranch.
I mean, I guess they had a lot of spare time to write out their titles back then.
You really needed to describe the entire book in the title for people to actually want that book. It couldn't just be like The Wilderness. It had to be like, okay, it's going to be Wilderness Hunter, Hunting Trips, Ranchman, Ranch Life, and talk about all the trails. So that's how you grabbed your readers.
Exactly. You had to let them know what they were in for, or they were not going to read it.
They're not going to put up with that shit. They want to know what is in this book.
Who the fuck is Teddy Roosevelt anyway? Nobody cares. Okay, so this is a direct quote, and this is a story that he was told by a couple of guides who were hunting with him. Okay, quote: "Frontiersmen are not, as a rule, apt to be very superstitious. They lead lives too hard and practical, and have too little imagination in things spiritual and supernatural. I have heard but few ghost stories while living on the frontier, and those few were of a perfectly commonplace and conventional type. But I once listened to a goblin story which rather impressed me. A grizzled, weather-beaten old mountain hunter named Bowman, who, born and had passed all of his life on the frontier, told the story to me. He must have believed what he said, for he could hardly repress a shudder at certain points of the tale. But he was of German ancestry, and in childhood had doubtless been saturated with all kinds of ghost and goblin lore. When the event occurred, Bowman was still a young man, and was trapping with a partner among the mountains dividing the forks of the Salmon from the head of the Wisdom River. Not having had much luck, he and his partner determined to go up into a particularly wild and lonely pass through which ran a small stream said to contain many beavers. The pass had an evil reputation because the year before, a solitary hunter who had wandered into it was slain, seemingly by a wild beast. The half-eaten remains being afterward found by some mining prospectors who had passed his camp only the night before. The memory of this event, however, weighed very lightly with the two trappers, who were as adventurous and hardy as others of their kind. They took their 2 lean mountain ponies to the foot of the pass, where they left them in an open beaver meadow. The rocky timber-clad ground being from there onward impracticable for horses. They then struck out on foot through the vast gloomy forest, and in about 4 hours reached a little open glade where they concluded to camp, as signs of game were plenty. There was still an hour or two of daylight left, and after building a brush lean-to and throwing down and opening their packs, they started upstream. The country was very dense and hard to travel through, as there was much down timber, although here and there, somber woodland was broken by small glades of mountain grass. At dusk, they again reached camp. The glade in which it was pitched was not many yards wide, the tall, close-set pines and firs rising round it like a wall. On one side was a little stream beyond which rose the steep mountain slopes, covered with unbroken growth of evergreen forest. He's really good at painting a picture.
He really is.
Yeah. They were surprised to find that during their absence, something apparently a bear had visited camp and rummaged about among their things, scattering the contents of their packs, and in sheer wantonness destroying their lean-to. The footprints of the beast were quite plain, but at first they paid no particular heed to them, busying themselves with rebuilding the lean-to, laying out their beds and stores, and lighting the fire. While Bowman was ready to make supper, it being already dark, his companion began to examine the tracks more closely, and soon took a brand from the fire to follow them up, where the intruder had walked along a game trail after leaving the camp. When the brand flickered out, he returned and took another, repeating his inspection of the footprints very closely. Coming back to the fire, he stood by it a minute or two, peering out into the darkness, and suddenly remarked, "Bowman, that bear has been walking on 2 legs."
Don't bears do that?
Not like when they're leaving, like not if they're moving quickly, they're gonna go on all 4s, right? They'll stand up on their 2 legs and like scare you, but they don't normally walk on 2 legs.
Right. The fancy ones do. The sophisticated ones do.
The posh bears.
The posh ass bears.
Bowman laughed at this, but his partner insisted that he was right, and upon again examining the tracks with a torch, they certainly did seem to be made by 2 paws or feet. However, it was too dark to make sure. After discussing whether the footprints could possibly be those of a human being and coming to the conclusion that they could not be, the 2 men rolled up in their blankets and went to sleep under the lean-to. At midnight, Bowman was awakened by some noise and sat up in his blankets. As he did so, his nostrils were struck by a strong, wild beast odor. And he caught the loom of a great body in the darkness at the mouth of the lean-to. Grasping his rifle, he fired at the vague, threatening shadow, but he must have missed, for immediately afterwards he heard the smashing of the underwood as the thing, whatever it was, rushed off into the impenetrable blackness of the forest and the night.
Dude, how scary. This guy just went straight shooting right away. He's like, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to kill it.
What if it was his friend?
I just got to pee, man. He just runs off, you know.
So after this, the 2 men slept but little, sitting up by the rekindled fire, but they heard nothing more. In the morning, they started out to look at the few traps that they had set the previous evenings and put new ones out. By an unspoken agreement, they kept together all day and returned to camp towards the evening. On nearing it, they saw, hardly to their astonishment, that the lean-to had again been torn down.
Damn it.
I know. The visitor of the preceding day had returned, and in wanton malice had tossed about their camp kit and bedding and destroyed the shanty. The ground was marked up by its tracks, and on leaving the camp, it had gone along the soft earth by the brook. The footprints were as plain as if on snow. After careful scrutiny of the trail, it certainly did seem as if, whatever the thing was, had walked off on 2 legs.
Ooh.
At noon, they were back within a couple miles of camp in the high, bright sunlight. Their fear seemed absurd to the 2 armed men, accustomed as they were, through long years of lonely wandering in the wilderness, to face every kind of danger from man, brute, or element. There were still 3 beaver traps to collect from a little pond in the wide ravine nearby. Bowman volunteered to gather these and bring them in, while his companion went ahead to camp and made ready the packs. All right, so I left out this part because it got really long, but I'm just going to give you the synopsis of it. So while Bowman left, his partner was attacked. And Bowman, when he was walking back, found him laying in the grass with 2 puncture marks on his neck, and he was unconscious.
Goat sucker.
Choopy, you're back.
Little buddy choop choops and little choopies.
Bowman, utterly unnerved, believing that the creature with which he had to deal with was something either half human or half devil, some great goblin beast, abandoned everything but his rifle and struck off at a speed down the pass, not halting until he reached the beaver meadows, where the hobbled ponies were still grazing. Mounting, he rode onwards through the night until beyond reach of pursuit. So he just like pieced out on his homie.
Wow.
Good luck, bro.
That was from Mr. Roosevelt, huh?
Yeah.
That's he was a good writer.
It was a really well told story, and I mean, it stuck with him because he talked about it apparently several times.
Where did all this take place?
I'm not exactly sure.
Let's say New Mexico.
My guess is it's probably like Missouri or something.
It was New Mexico. Eric.
What?
I have another story for you. It's from the website bfro.net, and let's just get into it. It was Saturday, July 16, 2011, about 12:30 a.m., early last Saturday morning. We were going to the Chusca Mountains on the Navajo Reservation for a family reunion. We just left the main paved highway through the Naborna Pass Indian Service Route 32, Highway 134, between Sheep Springs, New Mexico, and Crystal, New Mexico. I don't know if I've heard of those.
I know her. I know Crystal, New Mexico.
You know Crystal, New Mexico? We went south on a dirt road, Indian Service Route 32, into the Chusca Mountains. We were about 5 to 8 miles into the mountains when we came upon a small hill that curved towards the east and then to the south. As we approached the hill to go up, the road quickly turned right or south. As we reached the top, we saw the full moon, and it lit up the flat green pasture that was on top of the hill. As we made the turn to the right, or south again, I noticed a big black figure standing. As I looked at it, it stood with the full moon behind it, so that all I could see was the black outlined form. I kept my eyes on the figure while making the right turn, and I said to my wife, "Did you see that?" She said, "What?" I said, "Something is standing over there by the road." And as I looked, I noticed that the figure was standing by a small pond, which was about 10 to 15 feet from the road. And I could see the figure's reflection in the pond along the full moon. Was he just there fishing? I would say when I first saw it, it was about 75 feet away. And as I got closer, our headlights turned to the right, away from the black figure, but I could still see it. Because the moonlight was so bright, it just stood there, still, as if it was waiting for us to leave. I told her I was going to pull up the truck onto the edge of the road.
Yeah.
The road was dirt, and because of the rain, it had been plowed. So there was a ridge of dirt on both sides of the road. So I pulled the vehicle left towards the Bigfoot to flash my headlights on it. As my headlights flashed the Bigfoot, it turned, and we could see the legs, 2, turn, the arms, 2, turn, and it started running away from us up the small hill into the trees. It was a quick, smooth run. I mentioned it to her that it ran ninja-like, smooth and stealthy.
Oh, that's a t-shirt.
Smooth and stealthy. Your local New Mexico Sam Squanchels.
Your local New Mexico, your friendly neighborhood Sam Squanch Ninja.
That's, what was it? Sarcastic? No, it wasn't sarcastic. Passive-aggressive.
Passive-aggressive grizzly.
In less than 5 to 6 seconds, it was in the trees, as if it was turning and running, and we didn't see any clothing or buttons shining from the headlights / moonlights. We saw a huge mass, a body running on 2 legs, and we never saw any eyes. We noticed the legs and arms, and it for sure ran up the 2 legs on the hill. We were about 30 feet away from it when it ran up the hill, and we could see that it was not a bear or human. It stood at least 7 to 8 feet tall, and it was wider and taller than a person. After it ran away, we were in shock, and we sat there quietly in the truck, still for about 15 seconds. And then all of a sudden, my oldest daughter screamed and said, "Daddy, what was that?" And I was shocked that she was awake the whole time. I thought only my wife and I had saw it, but she was terrified, asking me over and over, "Daddy, what was that?" I couldn't say anything but tell her it was a Bigfoot. My wife and I aren't crazy, nor are we believers of Bigfoot until now. In fact, we were the biggest skeptics, but we can't deny what we saw. I have to believe it was because it was real. My wife also admitted that she saw it too, as if we first approached the hill just like I did. She just wasn't sure at the time if it was the same thing I saw. It was eerie and exciting at the same time. We also went back there on Sunday to look for tracks, but there weren't any. The ground was extremely hard where it ran up the hill, and along the pond, we saw hoof prints from the cows and dog prints, deer prints, no noticeably Bigfoot prints. By the way, the pond was only about 10 to 15 feet wide, and it was just a runoff of rainwater, so it isn't always there during the year. It seemed to me that it did not even want to be seen. I believe if I didn't turn my headlights toward him, it probably would have stood there until we passed by. Then it would have left. I think it was very intelligent because it watched us, and even before I could get the headlights turned onto him, he had already started to turn away from us. It had to have known that we were going to do next, and that is probably why we didn't see his eyes. I have a lot of stories from my grandma about Bigfoot. She said that they have been here since the beginning of time, and that they were like us, living among us at one point until they saw humans start to fight among themselves. Then they didn't want any part of us anymore. Hey, I can relate. So they went into hiding. And they know that if they kill a human or make contact with one, they know that's nothing good will come out of it. So that's why they stay in hiding. Interesting theory.
That was a good story.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can totally picture being in like that rural mountain area. There's nobody around. That would be pretty freaky. All right. So before we wrap this up, I want to talk a little bit about FBI research. It's not as exciting as it sounds, but it's still kind of cool. So in June of last year, the FBI released classified documents related to their investigation into the existence of Sasky.
Sasky?
Yeah, it's a new one.
Little sassats.
Little sassy Sask. The investigation occurred in 1976, and they looked at hairs that were collected and were thought to belong to Bigfoot. So I'm going to read you some of the highlights from these documents that were released.
You actually have the FBI documents here. That's awesome.
I do. So this is an excerpt from a letter. This institution conducts research on and into the Bigfoot phenomenon of the Pacific Northwest of the United States. We have been in operation for nearly 6 years, and we are associated with the Academy of Applied Science of Boston, Massachusetts. From time to time, we have been informed that hair, supposedly of a Bigfoot, has been sent for examination to the FBI, has been examined by the FBI, and with the conclusion as a report of the examination that it is not possible to compare the hair with that of any known creature on this continent.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then the next excerpt I have is the response back about the findings. The hairs which you recently delivered to the FBI laboratory on behalf of the Bigfoot Information Center and exhibition have been examined by transmitted and incident light microscopy. That's a hard word to say. The examination included a study of the morphological characteristics such as root structure, modulary structure, and cuticle thickness in addition to scale casts. Also, the hairs were compared directly with hairs of known origin under comparison microscope. It is concluded, as a result of these examinations, that the hairs are of deer family origin. The hair sample you submitted is being returned as an enclosure to this letter.
So we don't even want your hair.
Get your nasty deer hair out of our office.
You can have it back.
Right now. You bitch. Love the FBI.
Love FBI. I wonder when was this excerpt taken? I wonder what year.
So the investigation happened in 76.
76, huh?
Yeah. And
that was only like some samples, right? That was only some
and
samples
so
that they've gotten.
So the FBI had those documents that were classified until last year.
Huh. Okay. What do you think, man?
I think that they released what they wanted to release. And this is what we have.
Okay. So you think there is something more to it?
I don't know. I think it's this is probably one of the things that I was most skeptical about going into. But like after researching it, I feel less skeptical about it because I think that it's pretty probable, or at least possible, that there is some distant cousin to that giant ape creature that could be alive still. Giant squids weren't discovered until recently. A lot of these animals that were said to be mythical have turned out to be real, and it's possible that this guy exists and he's the reigning hide and seek champion of the world.
He really is good at it. He's so good at it. Well, that's interesting. I like that we turned you from a skeptic to kind of maybe of a somewhat believer, and I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I've always kind of felt that. I guess I've wanted to believe that, Bigfoot is real. I don't know, if we could only get like an interview with one.
Oh yeah, that would be sweet.
If we could get an interview with a Bigfoot, that we could change everything.
Mm-hmm.
We should see what we could do. You never know.
I mean, it's worth a shot, right?
I think that they're real. I think that there's a possibility they could be real. I think there's a lot of things going against it, but I still hold in my heart this kind of thing in me that is like, I want, there to be a big, giant, stinky ass ape running around New Mexico, running around the country.
Well, especially because he seems like a relatively harmless, except for Roosevelt's story, for the most part, it seems like a relatively harmless creature that just wants to fuck with people.
He just wants to stay hidden and stuff, man.
Yeah.
Oh, some of the videos I've seen of Sasquatch, it's hilarious, because you can like, oh yeah, that's totally somebody in a gorilla suit or whatever. Mm-hmm. I've also seen a couple where I was like, okay, what was that? Where I forget, there was this one with like a baby Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really kind of interesting. It looked legit. It looked like a real ape of some sort. You couldn't tell how big it was, but it was still realistic. So there's something in there that kind of makes me just hope and wish that, that it's true.
Well, and I think the thing about Bigfoot too is that like, it's not like a unicorn. It's not like Mothman. Like there are large primates in the world right now. We have gorillas. We have orangutans that can be pretty large as well. So it's really not that far off of reality to think that there could be something like that.
Right.
Anyway.
We'll have to wait and see.
I do know that there are people that have perpetuated hoaxes about Bigfoot. That's happened, and that probably hasn't helped the cause at all.
Yeah.
Because then it's easy to dismiss all of it as being fake.
I kind of hope they'd never find out for sure. Because what
you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice having the mystery.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
I want to know. I want to know all the things, though.
It's too much to know.
Tell me.
Your head will explode.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun.
And I learned some stuff, which was kind of cool.
We all learned something.
And if you didn't learn anything, well, sorry.
We weren't listening. Hey, don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review. We really appreciate when you guys do that. It helps us out.
So much.
It really does.
We are listener supported. Like I said before, we're not going to stop asking you. So you might as well just give in and go to patreon.com/dosespookenyos. We have, I believe, tiers as low as $2 a month. So we're not asking for a lot here. Every little bit helps.
The way you said that. We're not asking for a lot, guys.
Every little bit helps. And you get rewarded for your generosity. So we're not just like taking your money, although we are. But you're also getting something back. So there you go. I can talk good with words.
Words.
And then what about this rad shirt I'm wearing, Alex? Where would people go?
I love it. I love that shirt. They go to TeePublic and search Dos Pequeños. You can also find it on our pages. We have them pinned, so you can go straight there and get your own Dos Pequeños merch.
100%. And if I can ever get my shit together, it'll be on the website at some point. I'm so behind.
We'll get it there. We'll get it there.
As always, references will be in the show notes for you, so you can make sure that we're not 100% full of shit. We're only 30% full of shit.
30 to 40%.
Take that, Mom.
Yeah, Mom. Look at me now. I'm only 30% shit.
All right, man. Anything else you want to say?
No, sir. I think we're good.
All right.
Stay spooky.
And peace.